Alright, so we are very quickly approaching the E3, not E3 season, with Geoff Keighley's Summer Game Fest literally right around the corner, which has kind of become the new de facto E3 for the video game industry. And it's been a while since we've done some baseless speculation here on the channel, and I thought it'd be kind of fun to see if games like Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 3 could be teased at this year's event, or if the long-rumored Final Fantasy IX Remake will officially be announced as well. So we're going to break that down in today's video. If any of that sounds cool to you, feel free to click the like button. It really does help out and go a long way to support the channel. And if you're new here and you'd like to stick around, you can subscribe and let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. So it is worth noting that as of me recording this video, which I'm recording it on May 25th, the official partner list for Summer Game Fest 2025 has not been revealed yet. So there is a chance that Square Enix doesn't even show up at this event. And if they don't, there's always things like doing a Square Enix Direct, a PlayStation Showcase or State of Play, or maybe they're waiting until TGS. We don't really know. But by the time this video comes out, we'll probably already have the official list, so we'll know for sure if they're going to even be at the event. It's also worth noting that Square Enix themselves have forecasted a pretty quiet rest of the 2025 year with no new games dropping. But just because you're not releasing any new games doesn't mean you can't announce or tease any, especially if said games are coming out in 2026 or 2027. You want to at least get a good jump start on the marketing cycle, a good 6 to 9 months for some of these games to really promote them and get them out there so people know that they're a thing. On top of that, Geoff Keighley has a pretty close relationship with the folks over at Square Enix, and if they've got anything at all to show off or tease, Jeff's gonna want to be the person to do that on his platform and call first dibs. So there's always that aspect. But starting off first with a game that I didn't announce in that intro, and that is Kingdom Hearts 4. Now, I can't officially consider myself a big Kingdom Hearts fan anymore, even though I played the first two games when they came out and I was a little kid and I loved the crap out of them. It was literally the perfect marriage of Disney and Final Fantasy. It had great characters, an interesting story. I loved the Final Fantasy aspect in particular. Fun gameplay. It just hit me super hard as a kid. Unfortunately, after Kingdom Hearts 2, I did not keep up with the 754 sequels that came out and expanded the story. So when Kingdom Hearts 3 came out, I tried my best to learn myself on the lore and the characters and what was going on, and I was lost. I didn't know who was what. I didn't know what a Xehanort into a Xemnas was. I wasn't familiar with an Aqua, and there were so many moments in Kingdom Hearts 3 that were just lost on me because I didn't know the lore. I'm sure there probably were Kingdom Hearts fans who played 3 and lost their minds at so many different moments, but for me it just didn't really hit. Also, a big criticism I had of Kingdom Hearts 3, lack of Final Fantasy characters. Now, they did bring some characters in for the DLC, which hit after the game's release, but other than that, they only really mentioned Final Fantasy characters once, and it's in the Hercules section if I remember correctly, but there's a distinct lack of Final Fantasy in Part 3 and Sephiroth. There's no Sephiroth battle. How do you not have a Sephiroth battle in a Kingdom Hearts game? But just because I'm a lapsed fan doesn't mean I'm not interested in what they're doing with Part 4, because Part 4 is kind of in a really weird, nebulous spot because they announced the game, I think 2, maybe 3 years ago at this point, and it looked pretty exciting. And to know that they were officially working on a 4th game was pretty big news. But since then, it's been snoozeville. Other than 4 new screenshots, we haven't had any updates on that game, its progress, or when it's even going to come out. And I think there might be a reason for that. A, Tetsuya Nomura is directing that game, and he's got his hands full right now with the Final Fantasy VII Remake trilogy. Now, he's not the main director or co-director of Part 3, but Part 3 is really going to be a all-hands-on-deck situation, and everyone's pretty much going to have input on how that game comes out. So he's probably super busy with that game, which is taking him away from his director duties on Kingdom Hearts 4. So maybe once things get settled with that game, he can put more focus and attention on Kingdom Hearts 4. But I'm also curious about 4 in particular because I think it's a really cool point in the story to do a soft reboot. You don't have to eliminate everything that came before it, maybe pull some stuff here and there and incorporate it into the new game, but it's also a really cool opportunity to start a new story arc where people can jump on fresh, understand what's going on, maybe reintroduce the Final Fantasy element to it, which I know would pull me in immediately. But I'm also wondering if the next time we see this game, if it's going to be overhauled a little bit, specifically with the combat. I'm not quite sure how the combat of Kingdom Hearts has aged since 3. We've had things like the 7 Remake trilogy come out, which I love that combat system. We've had more actiony stuff with FF16, so I'm kind of curious to see if they do any alterations to that game's combat or if they just keep it exactly how it was in all of the previous games. But speaking of Final Fantasy VII Remake, could we have a tease for Remake Part 3 at this year's Summer Game Fest or at some sort of Square Enix Direct? Possibly. And the odds of that happening again are pretty good. Now, I go back to a quote which we've dropped here on the channel from Motomo Toriyama, who is the co-director of Rebirth and Part 3, and I believe one of the producers, potentially director on Ever Crisis, where he just straight up said that by the time the 2nd-year anniversary of Ever Crisis hits, which is going to be in September of this year, we will have updates in regards to the remake project. So I would assume sometime between now and September, we will have something that comes out to tease Remake Part 3. And I think it'll be a teaser, not a full-on trailer, because most of us expect this game to come out potentially in 2027. And if they kind of follow the same structure they had with Rebirth, which is what I'm kind of leaning towards, then yeah, it would make sense to have a teaser this year with a full-on reveal trailer and marketing push starting maybe in the summer of 2026. Because again, looking at Rebirth, in the summer of 2021, they had that 25th anniversary direct for FF7, and that's when they announced it's going to be a trilogy, and they gave us the first official teaser. And then the following year at Summer Game Fest, we got the official gameplay reveal with that first official trailer. And then in 2024 is when the game would actually come out. So it had a pretty solid, 6 to 9 months of marketing to kind of push the game, even though the game's marketing was pretty weak for the most part, in my opinion. I don't think they're going to make that mistake with Part 3. I really do think Part 3 is going to have a ton of more marketing dollars put into it, which I'm kind of curious about, because I would assume that the budget for this remake trilogy was decided a long time ago, probably when they decided to make it exclusive to Sony and the PlayStation brand. Now with that budget, I don't know if that took into consideration marketing budget or if that's something that came later. But when you've got a trilogy, they probably wanted to put a lot of money into the first part to really promote it and get people acquainted with the fact that a 7 remake was happening. With Part 2, I think they were much more reserved and lax on the marketing. I think maybe they relied a little too much on the name recognition and success of Part 1 that they thought would carry into Rebirth, which it didn't really at first, although the game did eventually have legs and it sold pretty decently from what we know. But with Part 3 being the cap of the trilogy, the final in that series, I think they're going to want to go all out with the marketing budget and really promote the crap out of it and make sure that it's everywhere and that everybody knows it's going to be a thing. And just to add on another note in regards to marketing, I think the trailers for 7 Remake were really, really well done. They did a very good job of explaining the characters and the story and the fact that it was a remake to not only hardcore fans, but a lot of the general audience. Now, if I have a criticism of the trailers of Rebirth, I kind of feel like those trailers were aimed primarily at the hardcore audience, really kind of teasing people, being a little bit more obtuse with some of the story stuff and the situations. It was really just like music, a random selection of cutscenes, and then some sound bites here and there that were taken out of context. And I think that maybe wasn't the most flattering for the game for the general audience. So I'm hoping maybe going into Part 3 that the trailers they release are kind of more akin to what they had with 7 Remake, where they really sell this game's combat, the characters, the story, and it doesn't really feel like you're watching or listening to a riddle that might kind of turn people off. But that's just my own personal criticism. Now, the big question is, should there be a teaser for Part 3? What do they even show? Do you tease the breakdown of Cloud? Do you tease the release of the real Sephiroth? Or, and I think this would be pretty cool, do you tease the young Sephiroth angle of the story by letting players know, yeah, at some point, you're going to be controlling young Sephiroth in those Ever Crisis flashbacks? Do you peek at some of the weapons? Do you tease a little bit of Cid and Vincent in combat? Do you tease the war with Shinra and Wutai? There are so many things that they could pull from to use for a teaser to really get people hooked and curious and be like, oh, that actually looks really exciting. I'm gonna have to check that out when the game releases. I think it's possible that we also get the name of the subtitle. What is part 3 going to be called? I'm really leaning towards Return or Returns, although I think it might be Return since they don't really have plural in the subtitles. It's Remake, Rebirth, Return. Returns would kind of maybe throw it off a little bit. But I would be shocked if we didn't get some sort of teaser or news between now and the Ever Crisis 2nd year anniversary. Now, speaking of anniversary, we have Final Fantasy IX celebrating its 25th anniversary this July. And to do so, Square Enix has been doing a lot of new stuff for the FF9 brand, releasing tons of merchandise, creating a website, and even updating that website with new character renders for Zidane, Vivi, Steiner, and Dagger. And it is worth noting to maybe kind of temper expectations that when you go to these websites, not only are they promoting the merch and the new character stuff, but they are also promoting the remaster that came out on all platforms many, many years ago. So if we're looking at Occam's razor here, the simplest explanation is, look, they just want to celebrate the 25th anniversary of Final Fantasy IX because it really is a popular and beloved franchise that people really care about and they want to celebrate it. They did the same thing with Final Fantasy VII and its 25th anniversary, but you want to know what game didn't get a big celebration for its 25th anniversary? Final Fantasy VIII. Unfortunately, 8 seems to be the redheaded stepchild of that trilogy on the PlayStation, unfortunately. But they didn't go all crazy for that game, but they are for 9. And I don't know if they would do that just to celebrate the anniversary, you know what I'm saying? You don't just grab Toshiyuki Itahana and ask him to do new character renders just for the fun of it. It kind of really does feel like there's something bigger brewing there. And again, this rumored Final Fantasy IX Remake has been a rumor for a very long time now, and usually where there's smoke, there's fire. And granted, there's been some people within the industry, some reliable, some not, who have said, yeah, this is a real thing. It's somewhere in between Crisis Core Remaster and Final Fantasy VII Remake, so it's not just a simple remaster. It's a little bit more ambitious. It'll still be turn-based with, I assume, some quality of life stuff, maybe adding some new stuff to combat. But many people have claimed, yeah, it is real. And with all of this new stuff just being announced within these past couple of weeks, it just kind of makes me wonder, are they really planning something bigger? Because it really does feel like it's more than just a 25th anniversary celebration. It really feels like they're leading up to the release of that remake announcement. And it's interesting, again, because of these action figures that are coming out, the merchandise, the new character renders, they're not just old school renders. These are like updated designs for the characters. And on the websites, not only do they have those new renders, but they also have full-on bios for the characters. So again, it really feels like they're getting people reacquainted with the cast of Final Fantasy IX and that world to maybe lead into something bigger. So maybe you announce it at Summer Game Fest in June, and then in July, when the actual anniversary hits, maybe you do a full-on celebration, a big trailer, some info dumps, new merchandise gets released, and then you lead into the game's release, which could be, maybe spring of 2026, which all seems very, very likely to me. And with all the restructuring going on at Square Enix, there's the hope that this remake, should it be real, will hopefully be multi-platform and launch on all platforms on day one, so it can be the biggest success it can possibly be. Now, as far as quality of life stuff I'd like to see in a 9 remake, it would be cool to switch weapons in battle like you could in Final Fantasy X, so Zidane can go from his double dagger form to the double bladed form, which I think would be pretty cool. It would also be nice if we had the opportunity to activate trance ourselves instead of it just randomly activating, because I think we've all had moments playing that game where we're in a regular battle, we're reaching the end, a character trances, and then you've got another character that just completely destroys the enemy, and that's the end of the battle, and boom, you've wasted your trance. Now, I don't know if you want to bank the trance into another battle, but at least giving the player the opportunity to activate it during that specific battle, whether they want to or not, and then when you go into the next battle, it's gone. I think might be a nice quality of life adjustment. But with that being said, that is the video. That is the baseless speculation. None of us know what's going to happen at this year's event or if Square's even going to do anything, but there's the hope that they will. So let me know in the comments down below. What do you guys think? Do you guys think there's a possibility that any of this stuff gets announced either at Summer Game Fest or at some point between now and September? And should they tease Remake Part 3 this year, what do you personally want to see in that teaser? I am Curious Corduroy. I will see you guys in the next video. Please remember to always be excellent to one another.